Hi again, everyone, and welcome to Charger 360, telling the stories of the University of New Haven. I'm J.W. Stewart, along with Bruce Barber, and our guest today is Lisa Dadio. And Lisa does a lot of amazing things for us here at the University of New Haven. Among the many hats she wears, she's the Assistant Dean of the Henry C. Lee College of Criminal Justice and Forensic Sciences, and also very important, the Director of the Northeast Regional National Center for Police De-escalation. Lisa, it's great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's quite an honor, actually, to be here.
Yeah, well, we're very happy. There's a lot to talk about. I think the first question we should ask you is, tell us a little bit about your background and your unique connection to the University of New Haven and how you got here and stayed here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am an alum. I received my undergraduate degree from here in law enforcement administration, which that degree doesn't exist anymore. And I got a minor in political science. And I also got my first master's degree here in forensic science, advanced investigation, which also doesn't exist any longer. It shows you how old I am. But, you know, once I graduated with my master's degree in forensic science, literally I graduated on January 23rd, way back when, and I started the police academy on January 24th. So I am a retired police lieutenant from the New Haven Police Department here in Connecticut, where I spent, I was there for 20 years. About 16 of those years, I actually was in the detective division. I was a detective, I was a sergeant, I was a lieutenant. I commanded the major crime division for about 4 years. I retired after 20 years of service and have been teaching in higher education ever since. And I came back home for me, kind of 360, back to the University of New Haven 9 years ago, where I started in the forensic science department. I was teaching crime scene investigation over there. And then in June of 2022, I'm now the graduate program coordinator for the MS Investigations, Criminal Investigations track here at the University of New Haven. So I'm back to I'm an investigator. Yep. You know, I spent the majority of my career in investigations, all different types, starting out as undercover work, doing narcotic work, sexual assaults, domestic violence, child abuse, child death, bias crimes, crime scene work for a few years, and then obviously commanding major crimes.
And once again, you speak so perfectly to the ethos of the University of New Haven, which is really, this is not academic theory, this is you have walked the walk.
Yeah, and I share that with my students. I share it with, I still have undergraduate advisees from the Forensic Science Department because I started with them as freshmen. So I will stay with them until they graduate from the University of New Haven. And then obviously I have a huge part of graduate students as well. And I teach too. So I do teach at the graduate level only now. And one of the best things I do with my students is talk to them about the field of criminal justice, law enforcement in particular, but also how we all tie into courts and corrections and victim services and crime analysis and so many things. I could share kind of my passion, my love for being a police officer. I have no regrets. And if I was younger again, I would do it all over. Even despite some of the challenges we're facing as a profession currently and have been facing for quite a while. So it truly is one of the best professions that you can have.
That's one of the reasons that you're here today. One of the biggest stories, not only here at the University of New Haven, but regionally and nationally, is a recent $1 million grant that you were a part of in securing for us from the Department of Justice to help train police officers with regard to de-escalation tactics. Tell us about the story behind this grant and what that money is going to be used for.
Sure. So let's see, we're now in 2023, 2021-ish. There is a national organization called the National De-escalation Training Center. And they had started training law enforcement officers throughout the country in de-escalation tactics before it was really something like it is now. It was very small initially. They had only a couple regions. They're broken up into, currently there's 8 regions in the United States where there are centers placed. So they reached out to the University of New Haven through connections. And they're like, hey, we want to talk to you about, you are the University of New Haven. You represent criminal justice, law enforcement, forensic science, and multiple other things. And we think you're the perfect university for us to partner with to be a regional center. Are you interested? And so, of course, it's never as easy as, yeah, I'm interested, but I have to convince everybody else to be interested. And of course, there's tons of support around this, right? Because we're all about training law enforcement and, really being the best at what we do. And so the university signed on, and we became a regional center, which means that no other university in the Northeast, 11 states, can be a regional center unless they come underneath us. Like we could have sub-regions, if you would. Like Pennsylvania's a pretty big state with a lot of agencies, and maybe we'd want to have like a sub, but it comes underneath me and the Northeast region. So anyway, we signed on, and part of it was they had already been awarded over $1 million grant with one of our other regions from the Department of Justice. So the Department of Justice approves the curriculum that is taught. We are the only level 3 de-escalation training program in the country currently, I say, because there are other companies that are trying to become a level 3 de-escalation training, but so far we're the only ones. And so a funding opportunity presented itself a year ago from the Department of Justice, the COPS office, and we applied for it. And it was expansion of regional de-escalation training centers. And so the rest is history.
Congratulations. I mean, I think it's so exciting. And it's interesting for me as I didn't really have a dangerous job. I was a morning radio personality, and as a result, I have such a respect for those of you in law enforcement. And, we were discussing a little earlier, you just, any day you go into work, you don't know what's going to happen. And so on top of that, you get in these situations that are very intense. And that's what I think is so exciting, that you're able to help take best practices and get those out to departments. So just quickly, I know we can't go through all of them now, but what are the basic points of when officers are involved in a tense situation, how should they be thinking about de-escalating that?
So what makes our training unique from everybody else, is the fact that we assess the personality, both of the officer, and we make an immediate assessment of whoever it is that we're coming into contact with that we're trying to de-escalate. They get personality assessments with DISC. Of course, I can't think of the proper title for it right now, but they're DISC personality assessments that we incorporate into our training, because it's important for you to understand your own personality traits and those that are within all of us, and also at the same time assess who we're dealing with so that we know how to properly de-escalate through talking to the person, what to say, what not to say, what are triggers based upon verbiage, and other things go into play. We're not teaching tactics. That's not what this is. This is actually looking at all the training that some law enforcement agencies definitely have in other types of de-escalation. This isn't kind of replacing that. It's in addition to, because nobody else talks about the personality of the officer and the other person we're dealing with. So that's like the big part of it.
Is this training for not only current police officers, but University of New Haven students as well? How is this being?
No.
Okay.
So it's only available to sworn law enforcement currently. The national office is looking at a couple other avenues for maybe security or correctional staff, but currently it's only sworn law enforcement. So, for example, here at the University of New Haven, we're going to be training. Our goal is over 2,500 officers as part of the grant. We're going to train them in de-escalation, and we're also going to train their officers to be trainers, so that it's a continual thing, right? So obviously we can't go into, say, the New Haven Police Department and train all 450 of them. We are going to train a good portion of them, but their own instructors will be doing the training, because they'll be certified through us to do it, and we'll be maintaining that certification and training. And we're constantly doing research and evaluation to make sure we are delivering the best practices in de-escalation. If there are any changes that we're seeing, we're capturing information on use of force. Are we having an impact on community and law enforcement interactions, that kind of thing.
And in your law enforcement career, what are some of the lessons what are some of the most, direct lessons that you learned as an officer working with the public?
So, I always had this saying that I use is you have to treat people the way you want to be treated. And so, depending on the circumstance, I may say to someone, like, why are you yelling at me? I am not yelling at you. And let's kind of, have a decent conversation and I'll say that. And again, everything's different. It's hard you can't be textbook because we're not dealing with textbook people, right? And there's just a lot going on with everybody. So it's assessing all of that and knowing what tools are good. And communication's a huge, huge factor in reducing potential volatile situations. But that's not always going to work, and we know that as well. But so, I say we have this tool belt, just like a carpenter does, right? And you have your hammer, and you have your screwdriver, and you have your tape measure. Well, law enforcement does too. Despite what's on our belt, our firearm, pepper spray, our handcuffs.
Those belts are so cool.
They're heavy.
I always wanted one
They're
of those
heavy.
belts, but they look heavy. Yeah.
So there's other things that we can do, right? Our communication with individuals. And so I think we always have to try to do that the best that we can. We're not always going to succeed. The last thing that anybody ever wants to do is to get into a use of force incident. Nobody ever wants that. Law enforcement does not either, by the way. I know, rightfully so, in a lot of circumstances, we are under the microscope now. Every state is mandating
Body cams.
Well, body cams is a great thing. It helps, and sometimes it hurts, but doesn't hurt in the wrong way, right? It hurts in a good way because you're actually able to see what had transpired. And so taking into account all of that, and body cams, proper training, agencies are mandating de-escalation training now. And so because they know it works, and we can prove that it works. And if we can just have one less injury or one less death on either side, it's a win. But we know we're going to impact more than one.
The personality assessment you were talking about earlier, it's one thing to assess the personality of the officer, but the person that they may come in, or persons they may come into contact with, how do you do that in a span of a few seconds and you have what, getting ready to hit the fan?
Yeah, so it's a very rapid assessment. And again, you're going to have to adjust as you're confronted with that, possibly, because maybe your assessment is wrong. No such thing as 100% perfection rate, right? So it's being aware of all that. What I've heard from the officers, we've already started putting people through it, our train the trainers. Everybody that has gone through it has said it's the best training they've ever done. They've learned about themselves as an individual, and they've taken the personality assessment and actually applied it to their own life personally, because they weren't aware of certain things. And then doing this DISC assessment, this DISC personality assessment, they were able to make themselves aware where it increased their personal lives, their relationships, and their professional as well.
I feel like if I were a police officer, I would love the belt, but the personality assessment would scare me.
Yeah, right, because
I
you
would
always
be
like, well, who
"What?"
are you?
Yes. Whoa.
Yeah. But you know what, looking back now, it's like, how did we never have assessments before? And again, there's no such thing as the perfect police officer, right? We all have strengths and weaknesses. Human nature isn't perfect, humans aren't perfect. But if we can be one step closer to being almost perfect, why not assess who we are? Same way that we talk about biases and prejudices, we all come, no matter who you are, you have something that makes you who you are. From the way you were raised, life experience, some trauma that you may have sustained at a younger age, your home life, education. So being aware of that as well and how that impacts your relationships with the public is key.
J-Dub, how did we get somebody so good as Lisa? How did this is, I want to take some of your classes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
You could do it.
It's amazing.
Again, for those prospective students and their parents who are watching, this is an opportunity. If you come here, you learn from Lisa Dadio and our experts. Real quick pitch to students. I know I know for the Henry C. Lee College of Criminal Justice and Forensics, there's usually a long line to get in, but
There
generally
is.
speaking,
Yeah.
if they come here, what are they going to learn in one of your classes?
So I'm at the graduate level, like I said, but I have amazing friends and colleagues who are at the undergraduate level. So for me, you're going to learn how to be an investigator. You're going to learn about death investigations, cold case investigations, forensic science. That's what you're going to learn from me. I give you real life practical examples. I talk to you about what it was like to be a police officer and do investigations. And I also have connections throughout the country that I can help you with internships. At the undergraduate level, even though I'm still only at the graduate level, I am an assistant dean. So I definitely do a lot of outreach with high schools. And I do go to recruiting events and open houses and stuff here at the university to meet with prospective students and their families to talk about the amazing university and, of course, our college and the opportunities that we have. And you know what's something that people may not realize? There's a lot of us in the Henry C. Lee College of Criminal Justice and Forensic Sciences that are practitioners. Mm-hmm. So we walk the walk, we talk the talk, and now we're here sharing our passion and our love and our energy for the profession that was so good to us that we can share with our students.
Lisa, congratulations on all that you do for us, especially that helping secure that $1 million grant from the Department of Justice to help police officers with de-escalation training.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Lisa, great to be here, and Bruce, excellent job as always.
It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. So next time it's Halloween, you're going to be dressed as a police officer?
That's exactly. I want that belt, just not the personality assessment, please. That's.
Thanks for watching Charger 360, telling the stories of the University of New Haven. For Lisa and Bruce, I'm J-Dub. We'll see you next time.